Hey folks, everything new under the sun. Well, here's a news update on the red heifer and the construction of a third temple. This is what I believe is going to happen in the last days, where the Antichrist is going to come and he's going to sit on the throne in the third temple. And this happens at the halfway point of the 7-year period. And where do we get that? Where do we get the idea that there's going to be a rebuilt third temple? Well, we get that from Daniel chapter 9, and specifically verse 27. So going up to verse 26, it says, "And after 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off." So that is the Messiah. That's Jesus, because it says, but not for himself. It's not because it's not his fault. He was sinless, but he will be cut off. "And the people of the prince that shall come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary." So this is the people of the prince, speaking of the Antichrist figure. "And the end thereof shall be with a flood, and unto the end of the war desolations are determined." So that's kind of the passage of time that happens. Then we get to verse 27 there, and let me just change this here. It says, "And he shall confirm a covenant with the many for 1 week." Now this is where we get this idea of 7 years. "And in the midst of the week he shall cause the sacrifice and oblation to cease." So that must mean that the sacrifices were happening at this point in time, because he causes them to cease, to stop. So this is the idea of the third temple being rebuilt. There was a first temple, there was a second temple, and there will be a third temple. And it says, "And for the overspreading of abominations he shall make it desolate, even until the consummation, and that determined shall be poured upon the desolate." So, "and for the overspreading of abominations he shall make it desolate, even unto the consummation." So again, this is the idea of the Antichrist coming here, and for some reason the third temple was built because the sacrifices were had started up again, and this is exactly what the Jews believe. They believe that they need the third temple. They don't believe that Jesus came, that Jesus was, or they don't believe that Jesus is Messiah. They're still looking for the return of God and their Messiah. And so they want to start up the third temple and the sacrifices again, to pay for their sins, because they don't recognize that Jesus Christ, of course, died on the cross 2,000 years ago and paid for all our sins, right? So this is where it comes from. Daniel chapter 9, verse 27 there. You can let me know what you think about that. There's different interpretations of it, to be sure. But this one's interesting. It says, "Israeli group practices red heifer ritual in front of Al-Aqsa Mosque." Now, we've been waiting on this news because they've had red heifers there for a few years. They were waiting for them to mature, and indeed they are. It says, "A group of Israelis have been pictured practicing the ritual of the red heifer, which is meant to herald the building of a new Jewish temple on the site of," where? "Al-Aqsa Mosque." Now, the Arabs are going to get up in arms about this, but likely there's a massive war in the Middle East, and this world leader comes to power who brings peace to the world, who brings in a new economic system and a mark of the beast system. And part of that peace deal will be, look, Arabs and Jews, you stop fighting, and I will each give you a place to build your temple, to worship your God on the Temple Mount. And this, many scholars have suggested, is exactly how the third temple is allowed to be built there, because right now it would be, World War III if Israel tried to do it. But if after World War III, and part of the peace deal was to create a third temple, and the three monotheistic religions, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, if they were all able to worship on the Temple Mount, then some people would like that, and that way we could have peace, right? If we all had our own place to worship up there and pray. It says, according to Jewish tradition, the ashes of the perfectly red heifer cow are needed for the ritual purification that would allow a third temple to be built. So kind of the precondition to a third temple being built is this idea of purification. They can't start the sacrifices again until they have these red heifer ashes. So again, this is a prerequisite, something that has to come before the third temple. So if the third temple is coming and the sacrifices are coming, that would mean the red heifer has to be ready and burned, and the ashes from the red heifer recovered for purification. So that's just a prerequisite step to the third temple. And that's why Christians look at this and say, well, that's interesting, isn't it? Because, again, we know that the third temple, or that we know that sacrifices ceased, that means they must have been started. They won't do sacrifices without a proper temple. That means a temple must be built. And what comes before the temple? Well, the ritual purification to be able to go into the temple and do the sacrifices. So there's a couple of steps where you're going backwards and saying, this has to be here for that. And, another thing has to be in place for this other thing to start. And that's where we're at with the red heifer. The temple, say radical Jewish groups, must be constructed on the raised plateau in Jerusalem's old city known as the Temple Mount, where Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Dome of the Rock Shrine stand today. So there's another flat area which is beside the Dome of the Rock, and I believe it's the Dome of Spirits, it's called. And many people believe, in fact, that is the location of the Holy of Holies. And it's a location, just adjacent to the Dome of the Rock. So they don't necessarily have to destroy the Islamic Dome of the Rock or Al-Aqsa Mosque to do it. And this could be what the Antichrist comes in and says, look, you worship side by side. Here's a plot of land for you. Hasn't nothing there except the Dome of the Spirits. So build your temple there, right? Some believe that this will herald the arrival of the Messiah and possibly even the end of the world. That's certainly what Christians, a lot of Christians believe anyways. So it goes on. There's a picture from Twitter, and them kind of setting this up and practicing what they're going to be doing with this. The chief rabbinate of Jerusalem has also, since 1921, officially banned Jews from entering the Temple Mount. It ruled that Jews are forbidden to enter unless they are ritually clean, which is impossible without the ashes of the red heifer. So again, the importance of the red heifer in terms of the rebuilding of the third temple and the initiation of the sacrifices again, which seem to be described in Daniel chapter 9, where the verse again talks about the Messiah about 2,000 years ago, and then the Antichrist, the prince to come. Over the past century, religious Zionist groups, including the Temple Institute, have advocated for the return of Jewish prayer at Al-Aqsa, with some even advocating for the demolition of the mosque and reconstruction of the temple. Now, again, I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're going to come to some agreement after after the precipice of World War III, which is likely to involve nuclear weapons, and he's going to say, what, it's going to be so crazy that the Arabs and the Muslims will agree to this because no one wants to be destroyed with total nuclear weapons all around the earth, and so they come to an agreement and they build the third temple. And so does that mean the third temple is coming? Well, it suggests that it could be very, very near. And as they move ahead with this red heifer, and they have, I think, 5 of them. In 2022, 5 red heifers arrived in Israel from Texas and are now kept in an archaeological park next to Shiloh. So that's interesting. It says the Temple Institute imported the heifers for the eventual purpose of using them in a ritual after years of searching for blemish-free cows without a stray white or black hair. And so they likely have them. These haven't been, declared to be, to have a white hair or a different colored hair yet. They haven't thrown these out yet. So that means we're still on track for the burning of the red heifer if these continue to grow up and mature to, I think it's 2 or 3 years. For them to sacrifice or to kill the red heifer for the ashes. So a quick little video, interesting stuff. When these things pop up, this means that there's interest, there's excitement for the Jews, and I think it's a milestone. Again, it gives you an indication that, yes, we are close. Yes, there's wars and rumors of wars happening all around the world, but when you see these things, these tell you that the time is near because all the events are coming together, converging. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't yet and hit the like button. That would be very much appreciated by me. And thanks for supporting the channel.